In this tutorial, we're going to look at some of the basics of using the command line to create two-dimensional drawing, or drafting, in Rhino3D. To get started, I'm going to go to File, New. I'm not going to save this current drawing, and what you'll see is that when you create a new drawing, it brings up a series of templates. These templates are important to use because it's important to use the correct units for your drawing. In architectural drawings, we should create everything full to scale. So that means that if a building is meant to be 100 feet tall, we should draw it as 100 feet tall. We will then later use architectural scales to create drawings that represent it. For this particular tutorial, I'm just going to use the small objects feet tutorial. What that means is the level of precision is that for smaller objects. When we were thinking things of very, very large sizes, we can give up on a little bit of the precision. It's not all that important, but this will be really good because we're working in feet. I'm going to double click the top view to make sure that I'm only working flat two-dimensional in the top view. You'll also notice I pulled down the command line slightly just so we can read what's going on in there. The command line is a really useful tool, and no matter what we want to do, I can type a command in. I encourage you to read the command prompts as we go through this because Rhino will kind of help you and ask you to do specific steps in specific orders. Let's start with a very easy command, line. If I type the command line and press enter, you'll see that the command prompt asks for the start of the line. I can just click anywhere with left click, and that's the beginning of my line. If we look at command line again, you'll see it now says end of line. So if I drag this out and click, there, I have it. It's a line, and I've set that line by 2 vertices. I can do that again, type line, press enter. But perhaps this time I want to work with a greater level of control. There'll be times where we do not want to just randomly click around, but we want to control exactly where the line goes. I can do that by specifying a point within the Cartesian grid. This green line we see here is the y-axis. The red line we see here is the x-axis. And where those meet, we see the origin. That's the 0, 0 point. And in fact, it's the 0, 0, 0 point because there's no z height at it. So if I type 0, 0, 0, or honestly, the shortcut is just 0, that will set the beginning of my line there at the origin. Now let's imagine that I want to have a perfectly straight line to the right. If I hold down Shift, you can see that I temporarily toggle on Ortho, or orthographic drawing. Orthographic drawing is that it's only horizontal and vertical lines. You can see with Shift held down, I can only go left and right, up and down. I can also come down and toggle Ortho on so that I can only move in those dimensions. I'm going to toggle Ortho off. You can see that that is also an option for Osnap. These are object snaps. And here in this tab, I've turned on endpoint, midpoint, center point, and perpendicular point. And with those turned on, I can snap to my other pieces of geometry. Here, I can snap to the endpoint, or say the midpoint, or potentially here, the perpendicular point. Using object snaps helps us control where our geometry goes. The other thing I can do is specify the length that I want. Let's say that I only want an 8-foot long line. By typing 8', that's the indication for feet in architectural drawing, I can hit enter. Now, although it's moving perpendicular to that line, I only have an 8-foot line segment. I can continue to change that dimension. Say maybe I want a 10-foot line segment, and you'll see that I've overridden that 8-foot with a 10-foot. I still need to specify the end of the line, and to do that, I need to left click. I left click there, and you can see I have now 2 lines on my canvas. There are more complex commands. For this purpose, let's go use another layer. You can see in my template, I have a series of layers 1 through 5. Just by clicking here, I can activate layer 1, which is colored red. This will help me just understand that the geometry is organized in different ways. I'm going to use a more complex command called Polyline. A polyline is a line made of multiple lines. I'll press enter, and I can say the start of the polyline. Maybe it's here, here, here. And I'm just creating vertices, just like this, and I can close that polyline here, but I could also do things like going up and looking for the perpendicular, and then coming back and closing this line. A closed polyline means that the start and end are the exact same vertice. If I hit enter, it will repeat that last command. So let's do a little something like this, and look at the command line. Next, point of polyline or press enter when done. Enter. If I click this object in my object properties, you'll see it specifies that it's an open curve. If I click this, it is a closed curve. And that makes sense because we close that polyline off. Using open and closed geometry will change the way you end up 3D modeling, or how you might be able to hatch or poche an object. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. If I drag from left to right, I can select only what is fully contained in my selection window. That would be these two objects here. If I drag from right to left, anything that my crossing box touches gets selected. That would be those there. Let's go to purple and set that as active. And I'll show you that there are other more complex pieces of geometry. So let's use a polygon. Press enter. Always read the command line. It will help you understand what it is you're being asked to do. We're going to define the center of the inscribed polygon. For this instance, let's go back and put it at the origin. 0. Enter. Then I can say, how far is the corner of this polygon? Maybe it's 10 feet. If I hold shift, I will be working again on orthographic drawing, so I can only specify up and down, left and right. And by left clicking, I've set that polygon and ended the command. If I hit enter, it will repeat it. And I can say 0 again. And this time maybe I want a 5-foot polygon. I'll press shift, drag up, and now you can see I have one polygon inscribed inside of the other. Let's look one last time by pressing enter to recreate a polygon command. You'll notice that there are some things listed here. These are options of the command. And you'll see that certain letters are underlined. Those are shortcuts. So while I can come up and click number of sides equals 5 and change it, I can also press N, enter, and it brings up this command. Typing your commands is usually a bit faster than clicking everything you need. So maybe this time I want to have a 6-sided polygon. I can do the same thing, and maybe I will use my Osnap and snap the origin here. I can drag this out there. This is just a different way of generating geometry, and using these options are really important. So I encourage you to always look at them. Obviously, there are other types of geometry, and if you're ever unsure what you can make, you can always just take a stab and type something in the command line. If we looked at rectangles here, a rectangle lets me click one corner point and another, but there are other ways to generate rectangles. I can specify that I want a 3-point rectangle. So the start of the edge is maybe here. Maybe it's 5 feet this way. I'll hold shift again. And then coming up this way, I want it to be 8 feet. This is the level of control that you want to have over the drawing. If I come back in with a rectangle and just draw something like this, I don't know how big it is, how long it is, how tall it is. I don't even know its relationship to the other pieces of geometry. It's important to set up systems of control within guidelines, templates, a datum. Those will help you create much more clean and organized drawings. Let's look at a few other pieces of geometry. And to do that, I'm just going to use right click to pan over. I can look at circles. Circles work a lot like polygons. I can specify the center of the circle and then the radius of the circle. If I need to specify the diameter, I could change that and say that I want to work with a diameter that is 5 feet. That will set my circle so that the radius is 2.5 feet. I can also look at 3-point circles. Sometimes it's important to create circles based off other pieces of geometry, and 3-point circles can help you do that. If we ever want to get pretty complicated, we could look at things like an ellipse. An ellipse has 2 control points here, and we'll then, those are the foci, create an ellipse this way. This level of geometry, let's use the move command here, we'll just move this out of the way. There are different types of geometry for different options. One of the difficult and challenging things sometimes can be a curve. So if I type the command curve, I'm looking to create a curve. And this is what we call a Bezier curve. What you'll notice is that before, when I was creating polylines, I was creating vertices, and my polyline moved through those vertices. If I press enter when done here, you'll see that my curve actually has vertices outside of it. a Bezier curve interpolates that information and generates a curve through those control points. If I ever needed to, I could click a control point, use the move command, and move that control point, which will change the curve itself. I can also use a different command. It's called interpolate curve, interp curve. And what this will do is create a curve that passes through the control points instead of interpolating like the Bezier does. So this one here actually moves through the specified points and then generates a framework outside of it. The last thing I want to show you is that there are options to trim, extend, and fillet, even chamfer, different pieces of geometry together. So here I'm going to create just a line. And if I was looking to, I could use the extend command and have this line connect to that curve. Select boundary objects. Well, that would be this one. Enter. Select curve to extend. This one. And then you can see it goes all the way up and extends that line to the curve. Let's do the opposite. The trim command. I'll type trim and press enter. Select cutting objects. That would be this one. Enter. Select object to trim. This one. And now I've trimmed that curve back to that line. This is one way to generate kind of a connection. If I wanted to keep working this way, I could look at, let's say, the fillet command. The fillet, not fillet, but fillet is a way to generate a connection with a radius. So right now my radius is set to the unit of 1. And because I'm working in feet, it'll be set to 1 foot. Then I have to specify the first curve to fillet. That's this curve. And the second curve to fillet. That's this curve. It now generates a fillet here. So if I press enter, there. It's essentially done that join and generated a little curvature to just connect them together. If I wasn't going to do that, I could also look at the chamfer command, which lets me go from here to here and chamfers it. This level of drafting and drawing will take a little bit of time and practice. I encourage you to always use layers and to work in a smart way with known dimensions and known locations. In this example, I was a little bit all over the place, and if I ever needed to go back, I really wouldn't know how big or how long things are. Obviously, there are ways to measure that, and in fact, that way is called the distance, and I can measure specific things. That's 15.324 feet. That's not a really good unit. But in the tutorials ahead, we'll look at how we might manipulate existing geometry and how we might begin to move it into three-dimensional geometry.